Hey, Terry Hodgkinson Sifu. Wanted to continue on today reading the parables from my book, which I've put in each of the chapters from, I think, chapter 5 onward to set the theme for the chapter's material. The book's called Memoirs of a Wandering Ninja, Walking the Path of Enlightenment. I wrote it and published it in 2009. And just wanted to go through some of these stories and share them, as well as tell you my personal experience on them, so that you can see why they made it into the book, and also how they set up the chapter for the theme and the meaning that is discussed in that chapter. So today's chapter is chapter 7, and the chapter title is Mastering Your Communication. The story's title is Your Words Have Real Impact. In the community where the wise masters of the way taught, students arrived from around the land and were of different ages and backgrounds. One day, the lesson was self-defense, and the master instructor that day was the Viper Master. Like the other masters, this one's reputation for being humble but wise had spread far and wide, with one difference. Master Viper was a very wise woman. Master Viper had been training and teaching martial arts for the majority of her life, and everyone enjoyed her classes. This day, she planned to demonstrate and teach effective self-defense maneuvers that one might need for self-protection against street assailants. All the masters at the School of the Way emphasized that these skills were to be used only for self-defense and never to hurt or injure needlessly. They stressed that respect and courtesy be shown for all people at all times. Their belief was that there are very few occasions in life where violence was needed, but when and if such an occasion presented itself, one should be ready to meet it. In the training offered at the school, being ready encompassed both a heightened sense of awareness and the discipline to bring the mind and the body together as one, making the whole a formidable weapon. As Master Viper often said, everything originates from the invisible realm, which we manifest and make visible by giving it form and motion. Master Viper asked Makoto, one of the newer students, "What do you mean by manifest and give the invisible form?" "Please come up front for a moment, if you will, Makoto." Makoto stood up, walked up to the front, and positioned himself in front of Master Viper. "Okay, Makoto, I would like you to throw a punch at me now, please." Makoto looked a little nervous and awkward, his brow furrowing at the idea of doing such a thing. After all, even though Master Viper had a great reputation, she was a woman. Still, Master Viper insisted. So Makoto threw a right hook. And as he launched the punch, almost instantaneously, Master Viper moved diagonally to her front left, not only out of reach of his punch, but closer to Makoto. She was now in perfect striking range, and he found himself overextended due to the motion of his punch. She stepped back. "So what happened, Makoto?" "I threw a punch at you, and you stepped out of the way and into a better position to strike me," he replied. "Yes, that is correct. But there's more." "There is? How do you mean, Master Viper?" "How did I move, Makoto? In which direction? Describe the movement, please." Makoto did not hesitate. "Well, you moved at a 45-degree angle, ending up on my right side where I was most vulnerable. And you moved incredibly fast." "Yes, that's correct. Now please show me a 45-degree angle." Makoto moved on a diagonal angle. "No, I mean show me a 45-degree angle without moving, please." He looked at her inquisitively. "Well, if I can't move, then I guess I can show you by writing it on a piece of paper." "Would you not be moving your fingers, Makoto?" "Well, yes, I suppose I would. And you asked to show you without moving." "That's right," Master Viper replied. You see, you can't show me a 45-degree angle because it's a concept, a principle of geometry. On its own, it belongs to the realm of the invisible. But in this example today, it was my physical movement that gave it form and definition. As Makoto nodded in recognition, she continued, "Now how about speed? Show me speed, please." Makoto was about to move quickly when all of a sudden he stopped and smiled. "I get it now. Speed belongs to the invisible realm too, because I can't show it to you unless I move." He had a bit of twinkle in his eye at this moment. Yes, now you get it. Now you understand that everything we do in martial arts begins with the invisible realm of mind. Things like ideas, concepts, and principles which we give meaning and purpose by making them visible, by giving them form with our body. Another student, whose name was Ushi, asked, "Master Viper, I'm not sure how that applies to self-defense." If you are not aware of what intangibles you're manifesting, then your actions will be chaotic in reaction, lacking the principles that make your self-defense maneuvers effective. We are sending and receiving information all the time. When Makoto threw his punch, I observed the slight adjustment of his feet, the shift of his weight onto his left foot, and the slight twitch in his right shoulder that indicated to me how he would be punching. Thus, I instantaneously responded, utilizing the correct principles of angulation, ensuring that I would not be struck by his punch, while placing him in a vulnerable position to myself. She waited as the students nodded and exchanged looks amongst themselves. If I had not made the correct observation and responded with the correct manifestation of intangible principles, then I would have been the one who was vulnerable. You see, it's important to understand that every manifestation, every action that you take is a result of what you know and what you think needs to be done. What you know in your mind comes from the intangible realm. This knowledge, which is either correct or incorrect, leads to an end result. You want to make sure that you are observing every bit of information correctly and selecting the correct principle to manifest the correct response. Otherwise, the price of self-defense could be damage to your body or even the loss of your life. Never underestimate any information, for the power of even one word has the ability to affect a person dramatically. "I don't understand how words can be useful in self-defense," Ushi replied. Master Viper asked Ushi to come up front. When he did, she asked him to strike her. Less reluctantly than Makoto, Ushi was about to follow through with a straight punch to her stomach when all of a sudden he was brought to a dead halt by a sudden loud, fierce noise from Master Viper. "Heiss!" Before he could figure out what happened, Master Viper was 2 inches from his face with a smile on her face. "What happened?" she asked. Ushi took a moment to recover before answering. "Well, you yelled a word so earth-shattering that it stopped me before I could let the punch go." "Yes, that's correct. I used a word that connotes a unified spirit and mind and projected it with sound focus, which is a verbal self-defense tactic used to break down the opponent mentally and physically. With the sound focus comes an explosive release of inner energy. Then, while your mind and body were in dismay, scrambling to figure out what happened, I moved into a position of greater danger for you, where I could have executed a number of maneuvers before you were even aware of what happened. So, can one word be effective?" "Yes," Ushi replied. "I never thought that words could have so much effect. Most people don't realize that even one word can have dynamic effect," Master Viper responded. A student spoke up from the back of class. "Master Viper, may I say something?" "Yes, please do," she said. "Well, you probably don't remember me as I'm older now and look different, but 20 years ago I came here. At that time, I was having great difficulty with many things in my life, especially with confidence in myself. My lack of confidence permeated every aspect of my life. I felt like I was getting nowhere in my part-time job, my social life. So I entered into the school of the way and your class. One day, in class, you said something profound that I always remember. Your perception equals your reality, so choose your thoughts wisely. I was at a point in my life where I was experiencing so much frustration and pain that I truly felt at the end of my rope. But after that lesson, I began observing all my thoughts in my mind. My life started to change dramatically. With my newfound awareness and confidence, my schooling started to improve, and eventually I earned a scholarship. I started a better part-time job, and that led to a high-paying career. Later, I opened up my own business. I married a beautiful woman, and we have 4 children who are here in class with you today. I now want my children to learn the way so that they, too, can benefit from its wisdom. Words are not enough to express my gratitude, Master Viper. Thank you. I'm glad you learned to never underestimate anything you say or do, Master Viper said, and she exchanged bows with the former student. Then she addressed the entire class. There are far-reaching effects that you might not see at the time you speak, perhaps not even 20 years later. She again smiled warmly as she returned, as the returning student had just thanked her. Then Makoto asked, Master Viper, why are you known as the Viper Master? Before she could answer, the daughter of her former student, who had spoken up, shouted out from the back of the room, "Communication!" When the laughter died down, Master Viper said, "That's right. The viper belongs to the snake family. Snakes are conspicuous creatures, while lacking arms and legs, which would seem to render it inert. Only the opposite is true, and they are regarded as extremely formidable and powerful adversaries. Since they are limited with their bodies, they cultivate their internal energy, their chi, to be more effective in their outward action. Some snakes wrap around their prey and slowly crush them, as they synchronize their prey's breathing pattern. Other snakes have lethal venom that can poison the blood or nervous system, causing paralysis or even death. Most people are not aware that the very things they say have the power to help or to hurt themselves and others. I am known as the Viper Master, and I am here to help you understand the power and master your communication." And to end that story off with a quote, "Whatever words we utter should be chosen with care, for people will hear them and be influenced by them for good or ill." Buddha. So, commenting on that story now, of course, I really wanted to get across how everything is a concept, everything is a principle before we as practitioners, and I'm speaking, of course, of martial arts right now, but this can be applied to many different things, sports, music. We as practitioners give these principles, these concepts, these theories form and manifest it. So I wanted to get that across. But I also wanted to get across how important it is to be non-prejudiced, whether you're training martial arts and you're being trained by a man or a woman, because I have known some absolutely fantastic lady martial arts students and teachers, and I would not hesitate one moment to give them respect in any moment. And I've had the pleasure of training with quite a few, and I'm very happy that I have, because when you understand that it's not a matter of whether you're male or female, it's a matter of where your mind is set and how you use the principles and how you manifest them and apply them. Sure, maybe some women don't have the muscular strength that some guys do, although I've met some that can pretty much keep par with that, depending on how they work out. But anyway, getting back, and maybe a lot of women don't have muscular power on par with a lot of men, but there are a lot of other ways you can execute and apply principles, and they don't always have to be done the same way. So the reason why I named her Master Viper was because take away the legs and take away the arms, and the viper or the snake family has to come up with other ways of being effective in its maneuvers and self-defense or offense. So that just gives you an idea right there. And then sort of attaching that to communication, I think it's important as well that we understand communication is a very important aspect of who we are, not just in the martial arts and how we teach and how we learn, but in every aspect of life. So all very, very important things for me growing up in the martial arts and applying these principles to everyday life. And I hope somewhere in this story you got something out of it too. So that's it for today. Thank you very much for spending time and listening, and I really appreciate that you're interested in this. Until next day, take care.